To this distinguished panel, I've served now for a couple of terms on the Appropriations Committee, and when I was first asked to serve on the Appropriations Committee, I wanted energy and water badly. We do our supercomputers. I think that Dr. Collins had talked about at Oak Ridge. We're going to have the fastest in the world with the Summit supercomputer. But I was told I had to take labor, energy, and health and human services. And since that time, I have fought very hard to remain on this committee. Mr. Chairman and the ranking member, I thank you all. This is tremendous. What you all do as a group is tremendous for America. You alleviate suffering. You move our research forward. So thank you. It's a privilege to work with you all. I have some questions. Your fiscal 2019 budget proposes to transfer certain research and sick energy worker compensation programs under the CDC and NIH, specifically the Energy Employees Occupation Illness Compensation Program run by NIH to the NIH. My understanding that this has been discussed before and rejected before. Certainly, those of us that have former Department of Energy workers, and I do in Oak Ridge, that are sick and have applied to the program have serious concerns that such a move, CDC and NIH are successfully managing the program and responding to workers' applications. A move like this might well result in a negative impact to the program. This program started under NIH 15 years ago because they have the radiation expertise to handle the specific program and address former worker applications. While the administration is now asking to approve a transfer of this and other budget authorities from NIH, where there doesn't appear to be a strong justification for the request or confidence that it will be good for the program. Why is this out there?
So we appreciate the confidence that seems to be reflected in NIH's ability to carry out research with a number of these proposals to bring other parts of the government under NIH's umbrella. I have to tell you, we are not particularly familiar with the OICPA, the program you're talking about, which is run by the Department of Labor, but where NIH has served as the setting of standards and the evaluation of exposures and determination about whether injury might have occurred, particularly in terms of radiation. We would have to learn quite a bit more about that to understand the pros and cons of where it's currently located, but I appreciate your comments that from your perspective, this seems to be working pretty well right now.
Thank you. I'd appreciate it if you all would look at that, because it really has benefited literally thousands of workers who over the years were, when we were less careful, exposed to these contaminants, and they really have suffered, and they've benefited from this program, and it's had bipartisan support, so I thank you for that. Dr. Collins, we're all interested in encouraging research on opioids and various synthetic forms of those compounds, including synthetic fentanyl. I understand that support for the U.S. government has been very aggressive in classifying some of those synthetic compounds like fentanyl as a Class 1 compound. However, are you concerned that the restrictions on researchers associated with Class 1 drugs and compounds might make it difficult for scientists to conduct the research necessary to better understand the compounds and to develop antidotes to these compounds, sir?
Yes, we are concerned about that. I'm going to ask Dr. Nora Volkoff, the head of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, who's the expert in this area, to respond to your question.
Yes, indeed. And of course, this scheduling of substances is to try to protect the public. So it's a very well-intentioned. You don't want to make them available. The problem is that at the same time, we need to do research in order to understand these drugs so we can treat it. And by having them on Schedule 1, it is very difficult to get permission, and it's a very lengthy process. So we've been discussing and working with our colleagues at DEA to try to figure out if there's an opportunity of generating a subcategory for this Schedule 1 that would allow it and make it easier for researchers to evaluate it. We need to move rapidly. We're losing, the big increases in mortality are from the synthetic opioids. We need to have countermeasures, and the only way that we're going to have countermeasures is doing research. But if it takes me at least a year to get those permissions, of course, everybody's going to be delayed. So this is something that will be very, very helpful if we can figure out how to solve it.
Thank you, Doctor. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much. Now go to my